Seriously? You met the ferals and they didn't kill you? Bathing in the sunlight atop the table, Rusty couldn't help but stare at the gaps of the fence back to the forest. Mm-hmm. Smudge's fur began to rise. He gave his mic a few brisk licks to make it lie flat. You really are crazy. Well, did they say anything? Could you even understand them? I heard they speak in tongues. Or did they chase you out? He gasped. Don't tell me you fought them off. Rusty sputtered. What? No, well, kinda. The first one I met was the same age as us. What a big knot of fur he was, though. And we scuffled. Then two more showed up out of the bushes. He leaned forward, whiskers twitching. Then what? At that he hesitated. He didn't want to go sharing all the Wildcat's secrets. It felt like he'd been privileged to learn what he had about the inner workings of the ThunderClan, little though it was. Just the thought made him hungry for more. How could cats survive so well without humans? He needed to know. We talked a bit, he said idly. Then the leader, Blue Star, asked me if I'd like to join for a while, see what it's like. What? Smudge screeched. That's insane! You can't be serious! Oh no. He wrapped a paw around his face. You're serious. They actually asked you that. Why? Why you? I don't know. They're probably just going to lure you in so they could eat you, he hissed. Rusty thought about the glint in the eyes of Blue Star and Lionheart, the old scars, the hardened looks on their faces. No, if they wanted to eat him, or kill him, they would have no trouble doing just that. Why would they lure him anywhere? I don't think so, he said. It just doesn't make sense. Well, good thing you're not going anyways. You're not going, right? When he didn't respond, Smudge scrambled to his feet. Rusty, no, you can't join the ferals. You know nothing about them. I want to know about them. You're too nosy for your own good. You'll die. I might, he agreed. What, and that's worth it? I could live for something other than a cushy life, he said quietly. I could learn how to hunt and fight and... He trailed off as Smudge's ears and tail drooped. What about me? He said pitifully. Rusty bumped his head. I'll visit, he said, and maybe I'll change my mind. They said I could. But what if you die? He squeaked. I'd never know. He gazed back out into the forest, thinking about all the dangers that Blue Star told him about. No, he said, but you should probably be grateful that you wouldn't. Smudge was speechless at that. But what about Princess? I'll visit her too. But she's your sister. I know. She'll understand. Maybe she'll be proud. He added, puffing out his chest. I'll learn how to hunt and fight better than she ever could. With a heavy sigh, Smudge planted his butt on the glass table once more. I guess I'm not going to change your mind, he said drearily. You promise you'll visit? He gave his shoulder a friendly lick. Yeah, of course. You're my best friend. I couldn't leave you completely. Okay, he relented. Good luck, Rusty. Thanks, Smudge. It didn't feel right to stick around, so Rusty went back to his own yard. He stopped in front of the door to his owner's house, wondering if they would miss him. But then again, they'd just gotten him. They couldn't be too attached. He knew he wasn't. He trotted over to the nearby bush and crawled underneath. There the branches made a nice fork. He'd gotten his head stuck once and lost his collar when pulling himself out. The humans had since replaced it, but he knew he could do it again. Couldn't be a feral if he had a collar, he thought. After that, he curled up and napped until the sun came down and the twin moons began to rise, glowing like a cat's eyes in the dark. Both were heavy-lidded, but it would only be a matter of days before they were both full. He waited by the border, ears pricking at every sound. If the forest had been interesting by day, it was downright fascinating at night. Everything seemed to come alive when darkness fell, even if it was still quite chilly. As he watched the moons climb, he became worried that they might not show. Had they changed their minds about letting him join? Had they decided they didn't want a kitty pet living among them? Just as the thoughts reached their peak, two pairs of eyes opened from the bushes. He leaned forward, trying to catch their scent. Would he know them? No. The first to step out had dappled tortoiseshell fur and pale green eyes, followed by a gray lynx point taunt with blue eyes. Something about the regal profile of his head reminded him of Blue Star, and when he sat, he tilted his head ever so slightly, just like she did. You must be Rusty, the tortoiseshell said. Yes, ma'am. Sir, he corrected. My name's Redtail. I'm Bluestar's second in command, her deputy. And this is Whitestorm, one of ThunderClan's most respected warriors. It's a pleasure to meet you. And you as well. Redtail's ears twitched, eyes glinting with a hint of warmth. Have you made your decision? I have, he said. I want to join ThunderClan. Confident, Whitestorm murmured, his mew deeper than Rusty expected. I see a lot of potential, Redtail. As do I, he agreed. Come on, Rusty. Do you think you can keep up with us? He looked at Redtail's and Whitestorm's hard, lean bodies and long, long legs. He absolutely could not. Yes, he said. And then they were off, and Rusty could only pray he didn't get too lost as he fell behind, especially when he couldn't make the graceful jumps they did over logs and streams and rocks, or when they made a sharp turn and he nearly ran into a tree. They reached the top of a ravine, where they were barely out of breath, and he was panting heavily. He hadn't lost sight of them once, though, and he couldn't help but be proud. The camp is down here, he said. Well, Redtail said. It looks like a hard climb, but there's a path if you know where to look. Follow me closely. Whitestorm will watch from behind. Rusty practically had his nose in Redtail's bushy striped tail as he led him down the path to the bottom of the ravine. He was right. It wasn't nearly as bad as it looked. He reached the bottom, and by then he caught his breath so he could look a little more put together as Redtail led him into the clearing. His chest clenched the moment he stepped in, as 24 pairs of eyes rested on him. Still, he raised his chin. Whitestorm had admired his confidence. Maybe the rest of them would too, fake as it was. A familiar face pushed through the crowd and met them. Bluestar's eyes gleamed as she peered at him. You came. I want to learn, he said. She nodded. And learn you will. Follow me. She led him over to a tumble of rocks where most of the crowd had gathered. Redtail sat at the bottom of the tumble, motioning for Rusty to sit beside him, while Bluestar bounded up the rocks to stand at top. ThunderClan, she bellowed. At dusk, I told you that we may have an outsider here to try out life in the clan. He has come, though. This is Rusty, and he will be living with us until the full moon, and perhaps until death. What say you? That's no rogue, a golden Molly said, eyeing him suspiciously. You're from the houses, aren't you? He raised his chin. I am. Another Molly, a dusky brown tabby, bared her teeth. A rogue I can understand, but a freaking kitty pet? ThunderClan's better than that. You're just a spoiled brat who's disillusioned into thinking humans actually care about him. His ears flattened, but Redtail flicked him with his tail before he could retort. He kept his mouth shut. Just as well, somebody was ready to speak up on his behalf. Rusty may be a kitty pet, but he has plenty of potential, Lionheart said. He just about made Grandpa turn tail. Doesn't that say more about your mentoring skills than it does about him? The same Molly retorted. At that, another golden Molly sprang to her feet. Speak to my brother like that again, Robin Wing! She hissed furiously when the tabby Tom beside her ran his tail down her flank. Well, a slight Tom said, what does our deputy think? He kept up well during the run back, Redtail said, and he's keen and confident. I trust Bluestar's choice and think we should give him a try. An older-looking Molly flicked a dismissive ear. I've seen worse. You're blind, you stupid old bat, snarled a curled-eared Tom. There's been worse, idiot. I support the kitty pet, she yowled. So do I, said Lionheart's sister. Me too, Graypaw squealed, squirming out from between Lionheart and a gray Molly that looked a whole lot like him. Bluestar inclined her head. Frostfur? Brindleface? The white Molly, who Rusty assumed was Frostfur, eyed him over. A little scrawny, she remarked, but I think I'm with Lionheart. He looks keen, has potential. Then I'm with Frostfur, Brindleface said quietly. Bluestar nodded. And the rest of the elders? There was a lot of grumbling that came from the pack of older cats, but it ended with a begrudging agreement. And what about you, Tiger Claw? Nearly the entire crowd swung their heads to look at the massive tabby Tom that was seated beside Lionheart's sister. The two cats flanking his other side looked at him especially intensely. He blinked at Rusty, searching him head to toe, then gave a chuckle. Well, Bluestar, I don't see why we can't try him out, he said. A bit old to be taken to the houses, but If he has potential, then he has potential. Then it's decided. She leapt down from the rocks and beckoned Rusty over. Go stand in front of her, on her back legs, Redtail whispered. Oh, no. Rusty padded over to Blue Star, who had already risen on her back legs, towering over him. Shakily, he stood up too, tail waving wildly as he tried to keep his balance. Behind him, the crowd suppressed chuckles. Blue Star's stare silenced them. From now on, until you depart our clan or become a warrior, you will be known as Firepaw, she said. Named for the way your pelt sets a flame in the eyes of Havern. Redtail, I want you to mentor him. You have the patience and the passion to teach Fireheart from scratch. I trust no other cat to teach him as well as you will. Redtail walked over, as balanced on his hind legs as a human, or the hairless cat from his dreams. Firepaw stood still as he pressed his nose lightly into his brow, perhaps knowing that anything harder would topple him. Welcome to the clan, Firepaw, he said, whiskers twitching. He added, You're doing well so far. You can sit down now. He flopped onto his haunches with a relieved huff. Blue Star remained standing as she stepped forward. Firepaw will receive his knife on the full moon, when he has decided whether he will stay or go. The meeting is over. The cats parted, ignoring him for the most part. A few called out greetings, welcoming him to the clan. Greypaw was the only one who bounded up. Good job on your twos, Firepaw, he said. You look like you were going to collapse any second. Great name, though. I felt like I was going to collapse, he huffed. I don't know how you do it. It takes practice, but you'll get it, Redtail said. What's the point, though? You'll be surprised by how much you can do if you have your front paws free. You're slower, but you can carry more, or reach something that would otherwise be out of reach for your jaws. You'll have to learn to use your paws to do things, but that will come in time, too. Are you going to show him the territory? Greypaw asked, practically vibrating. Can Lionheart and I come with? Actually, Greypaw, you need a lesson in silence, Lionheart said. For such a big cat, he moved as silent as an owl in flight. You'll have plenty of time to spend with Firepaw later. But, come on, leave Redtail to his work. He sighed. Fine. See you later, Firepaw. I'll introduce you to the apprentices. He trotted after Lionheart, tail waving delightedly. That paw takes after his mother, Redtail chuckled. Where his mother gets it from, though? Certainly not Blue Star. Huh? Greypaw's Blue Star's grandson? I wouldn't think it looking at him. Let's show you around, though. The forest? His tail curled as he chuckled. Let's start with the camp, Paw.